remember. Okay. All right, so we're going to start on our belly today. We're using the lacrosse ball, or you can use any kind of ball you have. A tennis ball is a good idea. So we're going to lie on our belly, and we're not going to use the ball yet. We're just going to have it near us. But we're going to do some belly breathing on our belly. So lying all the way down, you can stack your arms under your head like a little pillow. You can have your heels open wide and your toes kind of pigeon toe inward, or you could do the opposite with your feet, toes turned out, heels in, or whatever feels natural. Just notice what your feet are doing. And then see if you can take some big breaths down into your belly here, inhaling, filling up all the way. Feel that expansion in your waistband. And then as you exhale, let all the air empty out. And we'll take 3 more breaths, just the same. Inhale, expanding into the belly. And exhale, letting it all out. Last one. And then we'll, and you can always just chill here if you're wanting a more, more chill practice. Otherwise, we're going to bend our right knee in towards our glutes. And if you have a strap, you could always hook it around your foot if it's difficult to reach your leg, depending on how tight your quad is today. You can reach back with your right arm and either grab your pant leg or grab your outer ankle. If you can grab your outer ankle, see if you can spin your hand the opposite direction and grab the inside of your ankle. And then you're just pulling your heel towards your glute down just enough to get a stretch in your quad. So in yin yoga, we know not the biggest stretch. We don't need a big stretch. We just want something that feels like we're lengthening the right thigh. You want to take this a little bit further, or a lot further. You would raise your head and chest up, and you'd slide your left forearm back on your mat, so you're propped up on your forearm and your chest is elevated. And then you might be able to take your hand to the top of your foot and push down. So we'll be here for about 10 breaths. You can decide what is the right amount of stretch in these 10 breaths. The arm holding the foot, the ankle will engage slightly, but we want our shoulders, neck, and jaw ultimately soft, relaxed. We'll take 4 more breaths here. If you're elevated up, you can lower your torso back down. Once we're all the way down, you'll extend your right leg long behind you. Fold your arms under your head again and just pause. Notice your right thigh, notice the space you've created. And so what I love about yoga is, especially yin, you can use this practice, these postures, to open up and create room in your body. And we set that seed of intention earlier in class, and you can imagine maybe that space that opens up, we're able to let more of that intention in our body. And then we'll do the other side. So we'll rebend the knee, the left knee this time. And you can just reach back and just decide if it feels accessible to grab your ankle or your foot or your pant leg, and then you pull your heel down towards your glute, and that might be enough. And that often the case is enough. But if you need more, or if it helps you to grab your leg a little more, you guide your right forearm in, prop yourself up by your forearm, and you can pull that heel down into your glute, which is can be a lot more sensation. So give yourself just enough of that sensation as needed. Letting both hip bones stay heavy on the floor. We're going to take our final 4 breaths here. And then we'll let that release. And again, notice the flow of energy moving down the leg you just released. All right, and then we're going to do a similar thing, but we're going to incorporate the ball. And there's a bit of a glare. It's not the worst thing, but there we go. Okay. So we're going to get into the middle of our quad. So if you were to kind of go to the top, right at the top of the thigh, right where the pelvis and the thigh meet, all the way down to the knee, right above the knee, that's the thigh, right? And so you want to just imagine where the center of that is. And so we'll start with the right thigh. We're going to, again, lie on our belly, just like we did before, but this time the ball is going to go in the middle of our right thigh. Oh, and we'll lower all the way down first. So this is option 1, to lower down. So today's a trigger point day, which means there is going to be a bit more sensation because that ball can really kind of invite that strong sensation into our body. So remember, we don't need the strongest sensation, but I do give you a lot of options in case you want to, if you need more sensation. You don't always need all the bells and whistles, right? So the first option is to lay all the way down and just simply breathe. Imagine your body could expand around the ball when you inhale and grow heavy into the ball as you exhale. So the option 1 is just to be still, head rest on the arms, and just being in this space. Now from here, you can invite movement, subtle movement. So it would be a very subtle weight shift, right? You'd lean to your right thigh. In other words, you'd press that thigh into your ball more, and then you'd lean away from the ball. You'd lean to the ball and away from the ball, like you're wagging your tail right and left. So that could be another option. And then the bus stops will continue to become a little deeper, or a lot deeper. So then the third option is to, not weight shift, but to come more up on your forearms like a version of Sphinx pose. So this will kind of apply a little more pressure to that ball. Which I really like this version. This is really good. Okay, so then other versions, you can bend your right knee and just breathe. You can also windshield wiper your right leg side to side. And of course, you can do all this up on your elbows. It's just really, there's a lot to feel, right? So this is our first trigger point release we're doing today. So I invite you to just do the more gentle version as you see fit here. I'm going to hang out here today, but you can do whatever you need. We'll be here for about a minute. So let that help decide where you want to be in your release work. And even if it's yin or trigger point, whatever version of release work we're doing, we always look to the quality of the breath. The quality of the breath is going to calm down the nervous system if the breath is full and relaxed. So that's a way to be discerning and true to what's going on in your body here. If you ever today are in these trigger point poses and you start to feel sensation lessen as you stay, you can always deepen it by one of the options offered. That usually means you've released, right? And so you can go to the next layer. So we'll be here for about 10 more breaths. If you need to adjust how you are on the ball, please do that as needed. And we'll take 3 more breaths here. All right, we'll release that. And well, again, you'll just check in by, you can lie all the way down if you like, or whatever you need to notice and just feel that release. What opened up? What space has been created? I am really relaxed today. Okay, so we'll go to the other side. So you'll slip that ball right to the middle of your left thigh, and then, ooh, one thigh could be tighter than the other. I might be experiencing that on this side. So that we always start where we start. So you're going to lie all the way down and just feel the degree of sensation. And so you might stay here. If you want to take it a little further, you can rock your body right and left. So you're kind of coaxing a moment of more sensation, and then you back off from the sensation. That could be a good way to approach this. You can also come up onto your elbows in that Sphinx pose. You can always reposition the ball. You know, your quads are 4 muscles, right? So you might feel like you position it just a millimeter over to the left, it might get more in there. And then, of course, you can bend your knee and just hold and breathe. You can also windshield wiper your foot. You can do a bent knee, windshield wiper foot up or down with your torso. And so let your body tell you what it needs, you know, within this minute, what would best serve you here. I'm going to go back to forearms, legs long, just like the other side, but you could do something a little different if you need to on this side. If you're up on your forearms, your belly's relaxed, your legs are relaxed, but your arms are just gently engaged. They're pushing down to give you that lift through your spine. We'll be here a little longer, so if you need to make adjustments, if things start to, tension starts to dissipate or sensation dissipates, listen to that and maybe lean into the ball more or readjust as you like. We have 10 more breaths here. And we'll gently unwind, we'll remove that ball. Lie all the way down on your belly, check in with your legs, feel that adjustment, that shift in your left leg. And then we'll just take a brief child's pose. So slowly press yourself up and we'll separate our knees about as wide as our mat, big toes together, sit your hips back to your heels and just round in for a moment. We'll take 3 more breaths in child's pose. And then we'll just briefly touch on the feet while we're here, but we'll get more in depth with the soles of the feet later. You're gonna walk your knees together and then lift up to hands and knees, tuck your toes under just for a brief fire toes. You can stay on your fingers leaning forward, or you could lean back on your heels and sit more upright. We're going to take about 10 breaths here. Well, it's kind of a long time to be here, but it's a day about the low legs and feet, so we might as well. And so you can always weight shift right and left. This just makes the time go by a little quicker, it seems. You can move your shoulders up, around, and down. We have about 5 more breaths to go. So I know it's kind of intense, but it's so good. Release work, and we're going to use that ball on the soles of our feet today. So this is just going to kind of prime us just right for that. Last 3 breaths. And last one, we'll walk our hands forward, unwind the toes, float them off the floor, maybe pedal the feet or circle the ankles. You can also drum roll the feet, just get that circulation back. Okay, so another spot is like, I feel like is one of the best things you can do is the upper back with the ball. And so like this part of our body can get really tight right around the shoulder blades. So let's address that. I'll show you on my body. So at the back of your shoulder blades, it's like a rectangle, right? You have like the short end of the rectangle at the top, and then you have the long rectangle sides going vertically. You're going to take that ball to the top of your shoulder. You're going to roll it to the inside. So you're just to the inside of the upper inner corner of your shoulder blade on the right. And then you'll kind of crawl that ball 2 or 3 inches down. So that ball is going to be in the meaty part of our shoulder blade, or to the inside of our shoulder blade, right where muscle is. So in between the shoulder blade and the spine, that's where you're going to have that ball. And you'll know if you're in the right spot because it's almost always tender. And it feels like you're pressing on muscle or flesh. And really you can just stay right here. So once I'm gonna actually move mine a little too far down, but you're gonna pause and check in with yourself. So check in with your breath. And if you need to put a pillow behind your head or a prop, you can take a prop or 2. So one could be for your head. Just notice if that helps take you out of the intensity here. And then you can kind of rest your hands on your torso, or you can explore even more by, my shirt is choking me. You can explore even more by circling your arm around, and that can kind of tell you where knots, like little muscle knots might be, and you can really explore that way. So I would spend the first 30 seconds kind of wiggling around on the ball and finding that just right spot that you want to stay in for an extended period of time and really let that tension mellow out. So we want to find a tense spot, but we want to be able to mellow and breathe into that tension. So sometimes you can find a really tense spot, but it's not sustainable for a minute or 2 to stay there. So find the appropriate amount of sensation, and then you might rest your arm on a prop or on a table or on the floor. You can have your knees bent, you can have your legs long, it's totally up to you. And so trigger point does require a little bit of intuition, deciding what is the appropriate amount of stretch, release. And when in doubt, when you need something to focus your mind on, focusing on the breath, focusing on that inhale, that expansion, that widening across your ball. Exhale, there's a heaviness against the ball, a surrender. You might notice sensations running up and down your spine or up and down your neck or your arm. That's totally normal in trigger point. Just see if you can be with that sensation.
And we'll be here a bit longer, about 10 more breaths before we come out. I'll let you know when. And feel free to remove your ball, remove whatever you need to just pause flat on your back and observe the two shoulder blades. So the relationship your right shoulder blade has against the floor might be a more flattened out, more of like a dropped, widened sensation. Maybe the other shoulder blade's kind of more rounding away from the floor. Just notice what you notice. Maybe the side of the neck is more released on one side. I love trigger point because it shows you just how interconnected everything can be. And you might release one part of your body, but you feel the results in another area. This is a great example of that. So we'll do the other side. We'll pick up the body just enough so you can slip that ball just to the inside of your left shoulder blade. In between the shoulder blade and the spine, there's a valley of muscle there. This is more in the upper back area rather than mid back. And you can decide what is appropriate. Maybe you put a block or a prop under your head, and that helps ease some tension in your neck. Maybe you move the ball a little bit lower or a little bit higher, and you find a bit more there. And of course, you can always sweep your left arm around and just kind of use that movement to help refine where you would like to keep the ball as we marinate. Oh, as we marinate here. Oh, and this is a significantly tighter side than my right. Very surprised. Then you can always rest your arm on your torso or on a prop if that feels better. And then we deliberately breathe. Let's take 3 slow, steady breaths. Inhaling gradually in through your nostrils. Exhale, slow, steady out through the nose or mouth, like you're landing on your ball. Inhale in through your nose. Exhale, all the air empties out. One more, just like that, unclenching what we can here. Inhale. Slow, steady exhale, letting it all unclench. Letting it all fall heavy on the ground, heavy around the ball. We'll be here for about a minute. So if you feel like if you're unable to unclench in this moment, maybe move the ball in a slightly different area, or maybe prop yourself more. Maybe put a prop under your arm just to help ease the intensity. We'll be here for about 10 more breaths. So feel free to make any adjustments you need in this remainder of time. All right, and we'll remove the ball, and you can just take a moment to pause completely flat on the floor again and observe how your bones lay against the floor. How are your shoulder blades against the floor? Is there kind of a feeling of a more flat, dropped shoulder blades, maybe more spread out across the chest, maybe more space in the sides of the neck, more distance between the shoulders and each ear? And then we'll scoop our knees into our chest and rock along the low back for a moment. Just getting a little release there before we roll to the side and make our way up. And so we are in a rare occasion, but today we're going to stand, and we're going to release our feet with the ball, and then we're going to do the one standing pose in yin called dangling pose, which is a really nice release for your spine and hamstrings. So, want to come up to hands and knees. And then the way we're going to approach this is you will tuck all 10 toes under, lift your knees, and as you're lifting your knees, you're going to walk your hands back. You're going to come into a forward fold at the back of your mat and round in for a second. Keep a generous bend in your knees, and then pull your navel back towards your spine, round your spine all the way up. And eventually you'll come to stand up, and you're going to go find your ball. And we only need to see my feet now for the camera, so we'll stick with this view right here. And you're going to start with the ball under one foot, and we're just very simply going to roll out all over the bottom of that foot. And the purpose of this is to try to stimulate all those little nerve endings. There's like a ridiculous amount, like 220,000 or something in that ballpark. And we want all that stimulated. And then we're going to start with the heel on top of the ball. But then you're going to stand where both feet are about hip width apart and both feet are parallel on the ball. So I'll just face you just so you get to see the parallel foot. Ooh, and you'll pull straight down on the heel, straight down. So depending on how dense your ball is, you may not even feel like you're moving much at all. But the point is you're applying pressure to your heel, and then you're backing off. Pressure and then backing off. Pressure. We're going to do it about 10 pulses. And if you don't feel much in this particular one, don't worry, we have more ahead of us that you might feel more sensation.
All right, so moving up the foot to the next space, and I'm just gonna lift up my foot so I can highlight where we're going next. So whoop, from the heel, we're going where the heel and the arch meet. The pocket of the heel is what I like to call it, right here. It's gonna feel oh so tender because we normally don't stimulate this area of our foot very often. It doesn't get a whole lot of contact. So you'll pulse down and up for about 10 more. If you're on a lacrosse ball, a harder ball, it's going to be really intense, but just give yourself just enough pressure. If you're on a tennis ball, it's a little more, there's a little more give. You can really squish that thing, and it's just a different experience. One isn't better than the other. So we'll do 2 more pulses. And last one. Okay, so now we're going to slide further back. So we're more on, when we think of the arch of the foot, the typical arch, like the center of the foot. And again, we'll pull straight down, straight down, straight down, straight down. And so those who are taking class live with me, I know y'all have done this with me before, but just as a reminder, this series is about tractioning and lengthening that long piece of connective tissue, the plantar fascia. We're kind of ironing it out, preventing it from getting too tight, because that's really uncomfortable. We don't want plantar fasciitis. All right, so then moving on to the last spot will be the ball of the foot. And the ball of the foot is typically the widest part of the foot. So it's kind of right below the toes, right along here. And you'll set that ball of the foot right on the middle part. But then you'll kind of move the ball a little bit right and left. So you're going all along the ball of the foot, right and left. And we're actually trying to make our foot more expansive. And I know that's not a really we all want like really narrow, petite, dainty feet, but you can still release them and they can still spread out wide just for this moment that we're doing it, right? They'll go back to being kind of, but we do want that feeling of widening in the foot here. Especially that pinky toe edge, you want to roll. I know we can't really see it, but if you take the pinky toe metatarsal over the ball and pulse down, that helps to widen. It's a really great release for the foot. This is often tight on people. So we'll just take 2 more breaths here before we move on. All right, let's roll out that same foot, just one more little run through, rolling out anything that feels tight or stagnant. And then the fun part, I think, is just to step back and just look at your feet. Maybe one foot just looks more energized, more awake, less tense, and then looking at your other foot. But then also feeling your feet. And you could just stand up, you could do a little forward fold and experience what it's like to be held in your right foot versus your left foot. And if you took that forward fold, you'll roll yourself back up. And then we'll do the other side. So rolling out our second foot, might be your left foot here, checking in, noticing what's tight, what's loose, what's needing more attention in the foot. And then we'll stop, bring the ball right under the heel and bring the feet about hip width apart, and you'll pulse straight down on the heel, about 10 reps. Ooh. Breathing it all out, and also being aware of your posture. It's easy to kind of round the spine, look down, hold our breath. We want to avoid holding our breath, and we want to keep a lifted chest. All right, let that be your last pulse. Then you're going to slide your ball to the pocket of the heel, right where the heel and the arch meet. It like fits perfectly in a way. Ooh, and then you'll pulse down and up, down and up. Be gentle, especially if you're really tight here, or if you have a really hard ball, be gentle. We don't want to, you know, bruise ourselves. I don't think that's happened, but just be gentle. Last two and last one. All right, sliding further forward on the arch of our foot, you'll pulse straight down and up, down and up. Let's take 4 more pulses. 4, 3, 2, and 1. And then the last spot we're going is the widest part of our foot, the ball of our foot, just below our toes. And you are going to start initially in the center. You're going to pulse straight down and up, but then you'll kind of slide the ball to the right, slide to the left, and kind of help to spread apart your toes, widen the bones in that foot, especially the pinky toe edge. This is an area that gets really kind of crumpled up in a shoe. And so we want to open that up especially. And then you can kind of explore, you know, after you do a few moments on that pinky toe, you can go back to the middle, notice where you might be tender, we might need to pulse more. Yeah, certain areas might feel tighter than others, so you want to listen to that if that's talking to you here. And then we've probably done about 10, I would imagine here, 10 pulses. So then you can roll out that foot again, just kind of feel all that energy just kind of moving its way out or through. And then you'll step back and then you can look at your feet, just notice if there's more similarities, maybe more blood flow or relaxed and broad. And then you can do that forward fold again, or just stand and just check in, notice how you feel again in the 2 feet. Is there more of a balance this time? And then if you took the forward fold, you're going to roll up. So we are going to do a standing forward fold, very similar to what we just did to check in, but we're going to do it yin style. So you want to have your feet about at the very least hip width apart, but I prefer a little wider than that because it's a little more stable. You definitely want to bend your knees generously. It's going to be a lot of work for your legs. The legs are going to actively engage while you're here. But that's what we want. We want active legs so our spine and neck contraction and lengthen. So a few versions. One version you can do, you'll have your arms just kind of dangling. Maybe your hands are on the floor, maybe they're hovering. You can grab opposite elbows and let that kind of give you some traction. If you want to add a neck stretch into this, you would I'll give you 2 options. A neck stretch can be one option. So you can interlace your fingers right at the back of your neck, and then that can help to form a little more space in the back of your neck. And then you wrap your arms around the sides of your neck. So this creates traction in your cervical spine. You could sway a little side to side, or you could just stay still. And then the third option would be a shoulder rinse. You would interlace your fingers at your sacrum. You can keep them there, or you can actively press the knuckles up to the sky, sliding your shoulder blades together. So those are some options. We'll be here for about a little bit over a minute. So find the one that you might want to stay in, and we'll be here for a little bit of time. So the weight of your body is shifting into your toes. Your sitting bones are unhooking from your hamstrings. Your head is just dangling, so you might shake your head loose of any tension. You might sway your spine if you feel any
kind of resistance to that lengthening there. Steady breaths. We're gonna take about 10 more breaths here, so see if you can stay with it for the final moments. Last inhale. And as you exhale, walk your hands forward, lift up halfway, and then you can kind of bend your knees, lower all the way down, have a seat. And then we will be lying on our back again. Oh, that was a lot of work. I'm always amazed at how much muscular effort that one can be. So if you felt it in your legs, it's effortful in that way, dangling pose. So we'll scoop our knees into our chest one final time. You can rock alongside your low back and sacrum for a moment. And then as you're ready, you can settle into your version of Shavasana. Maybe that's Supta Baddha Konasana, soles of the feet together, knees open wide, or maybe that's constructive rest pose, knees are bent and together, feet wide apart. Arms can be open, or you can rest your palms on your torso. We'll take a little moment to rest here.
And begin to gather your breath, gather your kind of awareness of re-emerging gradually from your rest. And so that could look like, small, subtle, slower movements, or maybe you move a little bigger and swiftly stretch back and yawn, and we'll all revisit our easy seat. So as you're ready, at your pace, you'll come back to a seat, and we'll circle back to that intention we set. And you can find that loose sort of little bit of space inside your palms for that seed to grow. And that little bit of space, notice how there's a bit more space within you, a bit more capacity to hold that intention, or whatever it is that you're needing today. We'll close our practice with a single Om. Let's take a breath, then an Om. So inhale fully, exhale completely. Inhale for Om. The highest and brightest in me honors the highest and brightest in you. Namaste.
That was the fastest class we've ever had. It just zipped by.